So you don't think this is me? Well, maybe you don't know who I really was.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 14 of No Late Fees. Comic Book Guy here, Leo V there, and we're here to talk about, how do you pronounce this piece of shit? Joker,
Joker 2, Folie à Deux.
Folie a fucking doo-doo. I will never say that name for the rest of the review. I will just call it Joker 2, just to be plain and simple. I'm fucking bummed, man. I'm really bummed over this. I really wanted to like this movie. I'm a big fan of the first one. I think it did a bunch of really cool original things that I wouldn't have picked for a Joker origin. And to be completely transparent, I wasn't rooting for the movie when it was being made and when, the first couple trailers came out, but I was very surprised on how much I enjoyed the film when it came out. This movie takes everything that was great about the first one and just lays a fucking wet fart. It's disappointing, man.
I wish you were wrong in saying that. The first movie went really deep into an aspect of not only the character that doesn't always get addressed, but just like a nice mental health dive into just like a lot of it.
The transformation of Arthur into Joker was a really cool arc. It went from this guy who was scared to go in public and was nervous about everything, and he had no balls, and he would never stick up for himself, and he just felt like he was being taken advantage of and made fun of all the time. As the movie progressed, it took that character, and you saw him gradually gain more control and get less nervous and get more comfortable, and gradually more power came with that. He was able to express himself in a fucked up murdering spree manner, but it still fulfilled what you would expect from Joker. I'm not gonna call him the Joker, but Joker. Spoilers, by the way, we're going fucking right into it.
Yeah.
Here's your warning. Here's your warning. If you didn't see this, I would suggest still watching and just saving your money. But if for some reason you want to go see it, go watch it, come back, and we'll continue this fucking conversation. So the end of the first one, I like how it's ambiguous. I like how I could have a different perspective and argue a certain point of how I think it might be, and you could argue a certain point, and that's the cool part about it.
Right. There
It
were
was
certain parts you could say, like, was this imagination? Was this real? Oh, this could have been that. This worked this way.
This movie is the perfect example of a movie not needing a sequel, not needing another chapter. The first Joker movie was a really cool one and done Elseworld Black Series standalone movie that was different enough, but it hit the notes of who I think the Joker is. The Joker is a character who, like horror villains, when you find out their origin, it's almost less interesting, and leaving it subjective and a mystery almost makes it more interesting. One of the coolest lines the Joker ever says is, "If I was to have a pass, I would choose for it to be multiple choice," which is a mindfuck answer to give. And it almost works that way with the
Yeah.
first one because my idea could be completely different than your idea or his answer or her answer. This movie takes that and goes, nope, everything you thought is subjective and maybe happened, and takes the mystery out of it and just tells you this is what happened. He's not the Joker character that we see him become at the end of the first one. He's back to being pathetic fucking Arthur. The pathetic fucking mentally ill, getting taken advantage of, beat up, fucking made fun of. What was the point of the movie if we're back to step one where the first one began?
We've come full circle back to the beginning.
I'll be the first one to say that the acting is great.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix doesn't know how to phone it in. You can tell he's taken this seriously. He's trying to do the same thing and it works. He's
Yeah.
great in the movie, but just what he's getting material wise isn't that interesting is the problem.
Absolutely. The acting is great. The cinematography for what it is,
Yeah.
how it's set up and how the shots are done, fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
I just wish that the story had a little bit more of a point.
It almost seemed like we were getting, so the idea of the trial of Joker is a very interesting concept, and I think it could have been something really special. But at the meat of it, it's just telling the same character arc for Arthur that the first one did. We already saw his rise to status and his rise to becoming the character that he is at the end. Fucking shoots Robert De Niro and he's fucking smiling, he's happy, and he's in Arkham and he's he's happy. He's not miserable anymore. He's tired of feeling bad all the time, and he finally seems like he beat that in a fucked up way.
Right.
But he figured out how to become his true self. And this movie introduces the idea that there's a split personality disorder that he has. Like, so there's Arthur Fleck, and then there's Joker, and they're not the same person. And obviously, you pretty much get in the beginning that he's taking medication that's making Arthur stay, and the Joker character being on the back burner, and it doesn't show. I don't like that.
I wanted there to be a more firm resolution in, no, I am not Arthur Fleck, I am the Joker, and like
I think
adopt
them being one and the
adopt that.
same.
Yeah, like adopt that full personality. Like, this was who I was destined to be. I am no
Mhm.
longer sad. I am the clown. I am
Yeah,
the
the
Joker.
world has been making me fucking miserable and upset and depressed, and the world has been shitting on me for so long that I figured out a way to say fuck everyone else. This is who I really am, and this person makes me happy. And that's almost what you see at the end. His madness makes him become the true version of himself. I think the idea of Arthur and Joker being one and the same is the way they should have went. I think everything that they did with the split thing, it just deconstructs his characterization from the first movie. So then what's the point?
They did Joker and Harley's relationship all wrong, and they needed that courtroom bullshit to have some sort of reason for them to come closer together, for her to be the manipulative one instead of him, which
Yeah.
is not their relationship. So I don't want to hear all of the new stands out there going, "Oh, I want this Joker and Harley relationship." Man, first of all, don't aim for a Joker and Harley Quinn relationship. It's really not smart for any of you out there.
No.
Like,
No,
please don't
it's
do
not
that.
supposed to be admired. It's not supposed to be couple goals or any of this bullshit you see all the fucking time.
He will mentally and physically abuse her to any extent because he can, and he knows she'll come back to him. And in this, we're getting the she is now the one driving the car, and Arthur's just gonna be in the passenger seat.
So I'm not the biggest fan of Harley. She works in extremely small doses as a B or C character. So going into this movie, I was already kind of expecting to not like Harley and expecting to have the movie be flooded with her and too much of her, and she eats up too much screen time, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Lady Gaga did a really good job.
Lady Gaga's performance was fantastic.
I was worried that this was going to be a Harley movie and not a Joker movie, and this is 1000% an Arthur movie.
Yeah, definitely. I was nervous coming into it because I heard somewhere that she was like the driving force behind a lot of it, and coming out of that, I was like, no, I would not see her as the driving force. She was in the driver's seat for a lot of it, but she was not the main plot that
Mm.
caused the movie to go.
I think Todd Phillips didn't want to do it. I think Joaquin Phoenix didn't want to do it, but they just offered him a shitload of money and he said fine. And he wanted to do something extremely different. And it's ballsy to make it a musical, but I don't think the music worked. I think there's like one or two scenes where I think the musical aspect did what the film wanted it to do. The musical aspect was there in the first one. There
Oh,
was like scenes where like where when he's starting to like feel more balanced, he always does like a weird kind of little fucking thing, like a little dance in the mirror, and like he focuses himself the way he looks at himself, and he almost like it has a presence there, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. So the idea of when I found out it was going to be a musical, I'm like, you know what, this could be interesting if done right. But sometimes you're seeing him like when he's on the phone or when they're just singing together, like in Arkham, they're literally just kind of singing like this, and but then you have the other scenes where they're fucking over the top, and there's sparks and there's spotlights and there's fucking people dancing with them, and like, pure musical type shit. 20 minutes or so goes by and I'm like, there hasn't been a song yet. I'm like, maybe it's not going to be as much of a musical as people said. And then once the music part hits, it's pretty much every 5 to 10 minutes for the remainder of the movie. I forget. I think he's talking to the guard, and the guard asks him a question, and he starts singing, and then a minute into or so, the guard asked the same question again. Like he was like, Arthur, I asked you a question. It's almost like, okay, that didn't actually happen. That was in his head. But then there's other scenes where they're clearly acknowledging that there's singing going on and they're questioning and like, what the fuck is he doing? Or the cellmates are watching them on TV and they're clearly dancing with them. Every time the movie was doing something right, where it was building something up, it was building tension or building conflict, all of a sudden it would just come to a stop and you would see a spotlight come in, and then one of them would start dancing.
The musical aspect was not done the way I would say it had the potential to be done. It definitely had some great musical aspects. Lady Gaga's performance was great.
Oh,
Joaquin
she's a great
Phoenix
singer. So hands down,
Joaquin
she's a great
Phoenix,
singer.
when he was singing too, I was like, "Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you can
yes,
tell they all put the work in, and,
100%."
you being involved in theater, I grew up a fucking musician, like, I know how hard it is to, get something and make it sound good. It's not just one take, it's fucking hours and hours and hours and hours of practice, so I get it, and I appreciate it from that perspective. But, I just didn't think it worked here.
Do we need it in the Joker? Like,
I don't think we needed it in a sequel that really didn't need to be to begin with.
I would have liked to see them play around more with the animation side of it. Like the movie started with a Looney Tunes esque short. It was like me and my shadow. So like it was at least setting up the idea that there was a separation between Arthur and the Joker, and maybe Arthur wasn't fully to blame for all of this.
Another thing the movie did very, very well is one thing that I need a Batman story or a DC, Batman's Rogue Gallery story, if it's going to take place in Gotham, is it needs to nail Gotham. Gotham needs to be a dirty, muddy character in the movie where when you see it, you could smell it. You know what I mean? And this movie nails the way Arkham looks is fucking good. Arkham looks fucking great. It looks cold. It looks dirty to the point where when they all come out of lockup from the morning, they all are bringing out fucking piss pans. Like they have these big, like spaghetti fucking pots, and they take these big pots out while the guards are all talking shit to all of them. They're all walking out with their spaghetti pots and they dump their piss into a big ass fucking sink. But that's just normal there. They don't have, working restroom facilities inside of the cells. It's just solitary confinement. It looks really dark. It looks really dingy. It looks really wet. It looks really cold. I think they nailed Arkham and Gotham. So we meet Harley. She's another inmate at Arkham. So she's in like a music therapy class, which is, I appreciate them trying to like lean into like how we're going to get to the musical aspect of it. So she knows who he is. She's a fangirl basically of him. The trial is the main plot of this movie, and Harvey Dent is representing the state. Another thing they did extremely well is they captured Arthur's pain very well. Whenever
Ooh,
they show
yeah.
him and he's isolated or he gets nervous and he has his laughing fit, you hear the pain where he starts laughing and he'll laugh and then he'll swallow really hard or something. Like there's one scene where they have him outside like for rec and it's pouring rain out and they have like a 10-foot leash on him and he's just laughing and basically crying in pain while the guards just like stand behind him. There's multiple scenes throughout the movie where he does the laugh. The laugh almost gets me every time. He does this thing where he'll go like and it just wipes away. He'll like be like dying laughing, then his face just evens out, completely emotionless. And they sell the idea that he can't control it. I always assumed that, and I was fine with it. Always assumed that this wasn't the Joker, this was a Joker, because the age difference is a dead giveaway. It's a dead giveaway. Bruce is super young when he meets him at Wayne Manor, and I think he's like fucking 50 in the first one. Like he's pushing 50 or in his early 50s. So there's a fucking 30-year age difference. What is Bruce going to be 20 fucking 5 in his peak and he's fucking pushing 70? Come on.
Come back here, you old whippersnapper.
Yeah, like that's not going to happen. So I was always fine with that. I guess we'll get into it more later when we fucking do the big twist at the end, but they just completely deconstruct his character and they shit on what he could have been as the inspiration to a real Joker. But we'll get there when
We'll
we get
get
there.
there.
Everyone's finding out that they're pushing for the death penalty, and I think one of the fucking funniest scenes in the movie, one of the security guards, I guess he wants Arthur's signature. And the one guy, he says like, "Oh, this is going to be worth a fortune after he gets the chair." And Arthur's already like mid signature. He looks up when he hears him, and then goes back to looking and finishing his autograph. And you see it. It says, "Put on a happy. I hope you get cancer." so like,
That was
so
one of
he
the few moments that I actually laughed out loud.
Harley proposes that they escape. They're watching a movie, and just like you said, her kind of driving the car and pulling the strings. She's the one kind of manipulating him and trying to get him to do whatever she wants because she obviously has this fantasy of her and Joker. She throws a book of matches by all these curtains and lights the area on fire, and pretty much the fire spreads very quickly. Everyone's escaping or being evacuated because the whole entire fucking building goes up. This is one of the rare scenes in the movie where I think the musical number worked. They're running from the security guards. They're almost escaping. They're obviously happy to be like out in the open for the first time together and the fresh air, and they're almost like at the gate getting ready to escape, and they're singing, and before they get caught and pulled back by the security guards, they're just laughing.
Now that I'm thinking back on this, I want to say she probably planned that to begin with because she knew those reporters are out there. So this was like her way of, not only let's escape, planting that seed in his brain, but also saying, like, yes, I know all these reporters are out here and they're going to see you and they're going to see you and me. And then,
Well, we find out what she's really up to, and that's definitely a possibility. We'll get into that real quick. She tells Arthur that she's there because her dad's a piece of shit. Her dad used to beat the fucking shit out of her.
she said her dad died, right?
Her dad is dead. Her family had her committed. So like her origin story almost matches up to Arthur, and she's doing that on purpose to kind of get his pity and to earn his trust.
Not like that's difficult. He is overly trusting to almost anyone who talks to him.
Well, I think he just wants a friend. During the first one, he loved the idea of being idolized, of having fans, of having people talk about him. For the longest time, people didn't know I exist. They do now. They get captured. He gets thrown in solitary. Another great scene where like he's getting pulled in and like fucking hit against the wall really hard. And I think they nailed the laugh. I think I can tell there's a difference when he's involuntarily laughing versus when he's genuinely happy and laughing about something. Maybe that's just me, and they don't exactly say that in the movie. That's just my opinion, but I think you can kind of tell. So then all of a sudden he wakes up and she's there, and he even says, he goes, "Is this real? Are you really here?" You find out pretty much that has to be real because
She
they have
jumped on
sex.
that dick.
Yeah, they have sex. Arthur lasts fucking 10 seconds, 8 pumps, he's
Probably just
fucking
lost
done.
his virginity.
Probably a good point. And you know what? He might have because he even said he's like, "Can you do it?"
Yeah,
Like meaning like, "Can you like
show
start
me
this
where it
off?"
goes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Show me which you know what I mean.
Is that a door or a window? How do I get in?
At first, I would have assumed maybe that was a scene that was in his head as like a fantasy type thing,
Yeah,
but then
that's what I was thinking.
we find out later on she's pregnant.
I don't buy that. I think that was just another manipulation tactic for her to get her way. Your lawyer's doing you dirty, and like you need to listen to me. I need you on the outside. P.S. I'm pregnant. Oh, now
Yes.
you really need to fucking listen to me.
Yeah, no, there maybe you know, you're right. It probably is another manipulation tactic. I put his lawyer seems to really care about him.
Yeah,
It seems like she genuinely does care. And she's preparing him for trial, and she basically tells him that she's full of shit. She cares about me. We have a similar upbringing. She was abused just like me. No, she's from this side of town, which is like the rich side of town. Her father's a doctor. She actually started med school. You know what I mean?
he's still alive.
Yeah, she's here voluntarily.
What do you mean? She wasn't committed? And he only questioned that for what, like 3 seconds? Because he asks her about it and goes, "Did you lie to me?" She goes, "Yeah, a little bit."
At least she was honest about it. At least it did kind of explain away out of it seems very out of fucking nowhere. She's like, they're gonna let me go and I'm gonna be able to be on the outside during your trial. And he's like, wait, what? How? You don't just get released
Yeah,
because they think you're a bad influence on me. That's not how this works. You don't get discharged and released because someone else is a bad influence on you.
no, they just wouldn't let you come back to music class
Yeah.
anymore.
Another scene, I think this is like one of the three where I think the music actually worked. They have a reporter come in and they interview him, and it's very murder documentary Ted Bundy style. This is the first trial that's being televised in Gotham. This interview is being televised, so all the people at the prison and the rec room are watching on the TV. He's getting asked all these questions, and he just starts singing, and it almost seems out of place and crazy where I think it works.
Yeah,
Maybe he's playing it up for the cameras, so he's trying to make himself look more crazy for the cameras. There's multiple explanations for that scene, but I think that scene works, and that's one of the scenes where it's not was it in his head or was it not in his head because the people in the rec room are reacting to the TVs. The interviewer's reacting. It's like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, so that scene, he's clearly really singing. So Arthur fires his lawyer, announces that he's going to represent himself, and the next time we see him for trial, he's dressed up as Joker.
Yep, he has adopted his other self as his attorney with a slight southern accent.
It reminded me of the judge from My Cousin Vinny.
Yes, very Foghorn Leghorn.
He imagines a scenario where he kills the jury and beats the judge with a mallet. That was one of my favorite scenes in the fucking movie where he just like all of a sudden he's like talking to the jury and like he just picks up a chair and just fucking hits one of them. And he goes up to
Was it
the
Harvey or he started with Harvey first?
he
Yeah, that he
it might have been Harvey.
took the stool to fucking Harvey right to the side of the head.
And if I remember correctly, he just starts shooting people. I don't
Yep,
remember, but he definitely took the judge's mallet and he went and just fucking hits him like 8 times dude, in the
and
back
he
of the
was
head. But that was in his head. That didn't happen. I think the best scene in the whole movie is all of a sudden they're bringing in witnesses, and they bring in Gary,
oh puddles.
the little midget clown from the first movie who witnessed him kill one of his colleagues. Arthur obviously liked him because he said, "You were always nice to me. I'm not going to hurt you." Kisses him on the forehead and lets him leave the apartment unharmed.
Actually has to unlock the door for him because
Yeah,
he
because
was
he's too
too
short.
short.
This scene was interesting, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I kind of thought about it more. So we get the perspective of him being afraid of Arthur, and Arthur's like, "You were always nice to me. I'm not going to hurt you," and he rewards him with not harming him and not taking his life, which he's obviously capable of doing. This time it's flipped around where he's telling Arthur, he's like, "You're the only one who didn't make fun of me," and you're seeing it from his perspective. He's obviously very, very afraid of him, but he even compliments him, saying how nice you were to me. I put the interview with Gary and Arthur is an interesting look on how no one ever truly knew him. Best scene in the movie. That's the only scene that I can recall from the movie that he goes on a rant. He starts screaming at everyone, "Hey, you never really knew me. You never saw me." And I think that scene actually hit, and I wanted more of that. But unfortunately, we never got like that huge payoff like we did at the end of the
Another
first movie.
song probably came in and broke it up.
Let's see. Best scene in the movie. Best scene in the movie. But another fucking song takes me right out of the scene. End quote.
Almost like it was predicted.
uh,
But I did like that there was a tap dance in there.
so yes, you are a professional dancer, and tap dancing is your preferred method. I would assume
Sure
it's
the
safe to say.
fuck
Correct?
is.
Yes.
The tap number comes on, and I just feel you and Josh over just looking at me from the side, like Shaggy and Scooby going, "Huh?"
Yes. I remember. I forgot exactly what you said, but I think you went, "Oh."
At least in the first few minutes, because alright, I'm gonna get dance nerdy technical. It takes me out of it when what the dancer is doing and the sounds that they're making don't match. Clearly, Joaquin Phoenix was not fully tap dancing. There was a few moments his feet were doing the movements, and they were there, and they were on point, and I was there for it. Hire a tap dancer, give them this moment. You have a musical movie. Every musical has a tap dance number, so this trope only continues on.
I popped when he started tap dancing for you.
Yeah, you know, the a lot of the music for the movie was very jazz centered. So tap and jazz go very well together. They're a match made in heaven. If you've never seen tap and jazz before, you are missing out.
I see it all the time because I see you doing it constantly on all my social media feeds.
Oh
So
no,
I
is that where my socials are? Right down there?
you're into tap dancing or dancing at all for that matter,
Check it out.
check out Leo V on TikTok and Instagram. So that scene is pretty much the last time we see Joker. So he goes on his rant and he even mentions the guards. He says something about like the guards being like fat security guards that do whatever they want and take advantage of or something. I'm paraphrasing,
Fat
but
and
he meant
lazy
fat and
and like
lazy,
they don't
something
do what
like
they
that.
want.
After Arthur leaves, the guards get him and they fucking beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
So they bring him back to Arkham. They're talking shit the whole time. They wash his makeup off. They fucking strip him down, and they beat the fucking bricks out of him. They don't say it for 100% certainty, but I think they R word him.
They did when they threw him into his cell afterwards, it did look a little extra.
His underwear was like kind of baggy looking and like sagging, and he was obviously beaten the fuck out of.
Unconfirmed, but d potential?
I don't think it would have been out of the guard's character. It's definitely not out of the it's not out of the possibility that that did happen, but
Yeah,
not 1,000% sure. I think it was building up towards that next fucking final scene of the third act of like the Joker payoff, like the Murray scene in the first one, where it's the next day of trial. He's in a suit again. He has the Joker makeup on, and he takes a stool and grabs the mic off the stand and like sits right in front of the jury like he's about to do a stand-up routine. And the judge even says, like, you know, this isn't a comedy show, right? This isn't a stand-up routine. And he just looks at the camera that's filming and just has like this eerie long stare. And you see the security guard who might have R-worded him, like staring back at the monitor. I'm like, holy shit, he's gonna expose all of Arkham and the guards, or he's gonna say something about the system
right.
being corrupt or something. And does unwarranted character flip where he just tells everyone that he can't do this anymore and I'm not really Joker, I'm just Arthur. He even says, knock knock, who's there, Arthur, or something like that. I said this to you in the car. I said the only character motivation he has throughout the entire movie is being obsessed with Harley. So even if he did have a moment of clarity where he's like, holy shit, maybe I am fucking up and, you know, I am a scumbag and a piece of shit and I'm hurting people, I think his obsession for Harley would have kept him in the ring. She's right there. And at this point, because I think this is going to be the final, these are like the final statements basically of like state rests, the prosecution rests, or
Right.
defense rests. And she's dressed up like the closest we're going to see here to like a Harley Quinn inspired attire, costume, or get up, whatever you want to call it. He says all this and she leaves. She just fucking dips. She's like, okay, he's not Joker. He's not the man I thought that I wanted. So he realizes the error of his ways, flips his character. They ask him if he has anything else to say. Basically, he just says, "No, no more questions. Defense rest." And he's like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" The jury pronounces him guilty.
And then in the middle of them pronouncing him guilty, there's a giant explosion
Yes,
that sends him across the room. I thought they were going to use that to be like a Two-Face moment with Harvey Dent because they kind
there
of
was a
covered
Two Face moment.
half of him, his face in like blood and guts or like dirt and whatever it was.
Well, that
So
was a
like
Two Face moment. His side was burned, and he's like sitting there twitching, and like so. I think that was the Two Face moment. That's where he got his face fucked up.
everybody was severely injured except for Joker, who was able to get up and walk away, even though he was pretty much right up against that wall when the explosion happened. Took the brunt of this explosion.
Yeah, he definitely took it because they do the effect where it sounds like his ears are ringing for like fucking 2 minutes, so he can't hear anything. I thought they were going the route where maybe Harley was responsible because she left. She knew it was going to happen. Obviously, she didn't want to be in the room when the explosion went off. And maybe he was just putting up that act of, you know, realizing the mistakes of his ways and saying there really is no Joker just to have the court be vulnerable for a second so they can plan their escape. But no, car bomb goes off and you find out it's the Joker followers, like his legions of followers that are always at the protests and, you know, following Arthur Fleck. And he gets pulled out and thrown in a fucking escape car with a guy in Joker makeup and a guy with a clown mask. And he's out. They've been in the car for like a minute or two now. Like they're clearly not by the
Not
courthouse
going
anymore.
back.
He could have just stayed in the car and probably escaped and had all these people hide him. And he just, at a red light, gets out and runs away from him. So he escapes and he goes back to the steps from the first movie where his apartment was. Those big steps that like he dances down and he walks up a couple times earlier in the movie. And Harley's there. And he's basically telling her, like, we could escape. Let's go. We can be together, kind of thing. And she already knows that he admitted, like, this is not who I am. This was a facade. Like, I'm not Joker. I'm just me. And that's not what she wants. She just basically says goodbye and leaves.
Leaves him standing there in his own staircase crying.
If he had his Joker transformation at the climax of the first movie, she's had her Harley transformation at this point. She leaves and he gets captured by the police again and brought back. Tell me if you remember. I don't remember which song this is because, to be fucking clear there are so many goddamn songs that I guess when I wrote certain things that happened in certain songs, I don't remember which ones they were. But I said, "That was hilarious." Arthur literally just said, "Just stop the singing." Do you remember what scene that was? And I was like, "Thank you, Arthur. You're taking the words out of my mouth." There's
Uh,
a scene I think after he gets arrested where everyone's singing and he goes, "Just stop the singing."
yeah, he did say that, and there that was a very nice meta commentary on the fact that you were just in a musical.
Dude, we're right at the end. He gets brought back. So the trial's over. He's found guilty. He's back in the mix at the rec room at Arkham and all that. So this is my theory on the end of the movie. They did leave it where they didn't give you a definitive answer of this or not, but this is my theory. So at the end, all of a sudden, a guard comes up and says, "You have a visitor." They walk into a hallway, and there's been a character in the background throughout the movie where they did kind of like focus the camera on him for like kind of long shots, but not like too long.
Oh,
Where like
when
this,
the Saints go marching in, he was the guy on the table that
so
was
so
starting a
not
riot.
I don't think that was him. I think that was his buddy who got choked out and murdered by the one guard. There's
Huh,
another guy who's just always in the background, like
little
fucking
Weasomer.
maniacally smiling and laughing. So at the end, he has a visitor. The guard walks him down. The guard disappears down the other end of the hallway, and that kid comes in and he says, he's like, could I tell you a joke? The running thing throughout the whole movie is like you said, the security guards are saying, like, Arthur, you got a joke for today? You got a joke for today? What's the joke of the day? And he says something, I'm paraphrasing, but he says something about psychopath walks into a bar, sees a clown. The clown really isn't who the psychopath thought he was. And the punchline is, what does he say to the clown? He says, "You get what you fucking deserve." The same line that he said to Murray at the end of the first movie, and then takes out a shank and just starts fucking stabbing Arthur in the stomach and kills him. He slowly bleeds out. And as he's bleeding out, you see the guy in the background out of focus, and he gives himself the smile. He cuts his own face and he's like just maniacally fucking laughing, like an unhinged laugh. And I guess that's gonna be the actual Joker. So Arthur's Joker was the inspiration to whoever this guy is, who becomes the actual Joker. I think Harley's responsible for that. We find out that she does have money earlier on in the movie. He has a visitor. Obviously, there's a chance Harley paid him off. Harley wanted her Joker. She's obviously like very sold on the idea of her being Harley Quinn to Joker. She sets up the interview or sets up the visitor to have him killed and somehow got to the kid and said, "You could be Joker."
I didn't even think about that. That's actually,
So
yeah.
then if Harley set him up, it gets Arthur out of the way. This guy who's obviously they look at Arthur like he's a celebrity, like, if you take out a murderer, like that gives you fucking like street cred or something.
Plus, it's the face makeup that really makes the Joker at that point. So, like, anyone can wear makeup and be the Joker.
That scene where it's the Joker and Harley show and he's wearing like the burgundy tux and they're having like the talk show with the microphones. They're dancing and singing together and having this comedy act and talking to the crowd and all this stuff. And all of a sudden she just shoots him in the stomach, right? And then it kind of goes away and it's like, okay, that was in his head. So at the very end, they don't tell you who the visitor was with the guard. They don't tell you who was behind it or if anyone was behind it. Maybe this was just some crazy guy who took it into his own hands, shanked him, and, carved the smile on his face. But as soon as he starts shanking him in the stomach and he realizes he looks down and he sees his stomach bleeding, it shows Harley with the smoking gun
Goes
from
back
that
to that,
scene
yeah.
where she shot him in the stomach. And it takes me out of it kind of because he starts singing and shit, but put that to the side. But it almost like metaphorically, she's holding the smoking gun where it shows you that that wound in his stomach she's responsible for, but she didn't actually pull the trigger.
Right. She wasn't the one that pulled the trigger, but she was the one that loaded the bullets.
So yeah, that's I think that's what happened. And I think that's a possibility, but we'll never know because the movie just ends.
Well, good. I don't want to know because if it means I have to sit through another 90 plus minutes of that shenaniganshipry, then no thank you.
The last thing I put in my notes is the sudden character change for Arthur is mind-boggling. His character is right back to where he started at the beginning of the original film. His quote unquote turn was for nothing besides the inspiration for the real Joker seems like bullshit. I'm not against the idea of him being the inspiration to what would eventually become the Joker that we know. But I feel like you put so much effort and so much time into developing the character of Arthur into Joker by the end of the first movie that it was all for nothing. I think you easily could have not had like his character turn in the courtroom, and you could have had him die laughing or go down swinging, so to say, like of him being, maybe he still got the guilty verdict. The death scene at the end with the shank plays out the exact same way, but the only difference is while he's doing it, he's just fucking laughing the entire time. And
Right,
he dies with a smile on his face. So yeah, okay, this guy did inspire the actual Joker, but he fucking went down swinging
right.
or smiling, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But he kept it real until his last breath.
Not going down crying like this guy did.
Yes, it was a very uneventful ending. I think they thought that the whole actual Joker thing was going to be a bigger hit than it was. But did you notice that in our theater when the movie ended, no one clapped?
Yeah,
There was no applause. It was kind of people just you heard like and this is us included. It was like a wait, the fuck just happened?
that's it. That's what we got.
Okay, okay, so yeah, okay, that was it. The very anticlimactic, and just yeah, a sequel that did not need to be, man.
When it comes to sequels nowadays, if it's not gonna drive your story forward, don't do it.
I think there was something there that they could have done with the actual Joker taking him out to take on the mantle. I think there's something they could have done with Harley pulling the strings behind the scenes. But I don't know, man. That character turn of him in the courtroom, it rubbed me the wrong way, man. It didn't feel earned. It didn't feel like it felt like it felt like a whole movie was made. Then all of a sudden they cut out like 10 minutes and they just reshot something and threw it in there. It seemed very out of place. Like there was no warning of like, does he feel bad about shit? Like, no, he seems into it.
Yeah,
He seems like every time he's like talking about like what he did, he's like, yeah, I killed 5 people. Six that
6
they,
years.
they actually don't know, but it was actually six. Like someone who like John Wayne Gacy or Ted Bundy who like would talk about themselves like a certain way and admire what they did. And I don't know. It just seemed like it had that written all over it. And then all of a sudden at the end, it was like, no, it's actually not me. What would you rate it?
I'm giving this one like a 4 or 5. This movie had a lot of potential, and as much as I loved Joaquin Phoenix's performance and Lady Gaga's performance, the cinematography was great. There was just not enough to really pull this movie out of the shitter.
I'm not going to repeat what you said, but I agree with everything as far as the cinematography and the actors and the performances and the ideas and the potential. I want to give it a 5, but I don't care how good your movie looks or how good your movie sounds or how good your fucking performances are. If you deconstruct the main character that makes it interesting, you lose a point or two. I'm gonna go like a 4, man. I
Eh,
almost want to bring it down because I'm fucking disappointed because I really like that character and I think they could have potentially done something really special and they just completely knocked down and erased all the work that was put into that character where it just fell fucking flat on his face, man. I feel like there hasn't been a movie yet that you and I reviewed that we've both been ecstatic about.
yeah,
And
of like the newer stuff, no, like there really
yeah,
hasn't been.
I keep thinking like, shit, what movie like what movie are we just gonna be like, oh, this movie was fucking amazing. This movie was really, really good. And everything is like, oh, it was a 6. Oh, it was a 5. Oh, it was a 3. Oh, it was a 4.
I don't want people to think that all we're gonna do is just shit on movies, but
No,
I
but
mean,
they're giving us a steady dose of shit recently, man. But yeah, so that was Joker de la Voodoo
but
doo poo poo.
Folly a Dookie.
Folly of fucking doo doo. That was Joker 2, Folly of fucking poo poo. On a positive note, have you watched Penguin at all?
No, not yet.
Dude, watch it. It's really fucking good. It's really fucking good. Maybe we could I think we're already past the boat where we can kind of do like an episode by episode breakdown, but maybe when it's over, we can do like a series breakdown. I think it's 8.
If it's 8, maybe we can
I,
do like a halfway point.
the whole like Falcone and Maroni family war of like a whole that whole thing that's going on. This is like how he's manipulating things from both sides and rising up the ranks of the mob. You forget it's Colin Farrell multiple times
Because it
throughout the
doesn't look
show.
like him.
Dude, I won't spoil or anything, but there's a scene where you see him shirtless and you're like, holy shit, dude, the prosthetics, the work that went into that fucking character. So yeah, let's do that. Catch up towards the end. Maybe we'll do halfway point or definitely do like a series breakdown at the end and maybe have like a DC palette cleanse. Do
Yeah,
something
I think
good
we
for a
need it.
change. So yeah, that was Joker 2. Want to thank you guys for hanging out with Leo and I, checking out the video. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. And until the next one, guys, later.
Bye.